Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is now providing the clearest indication yet of where he stands on a major foreign policy issue. DeSantis telling Fox News' Tucker Carlson that he disagrees with where most in his party are on Ukraine, putting it this way, saying, quote, while the U.S. has many vital national interests, securing our borders, addressing the crisis of readiness with our military, achieving energy security and independence, and checking the economic, cultural, and military power of the Chinese Communist Party, becoming further entangled in a territorial dispute between Ukraine and Russia is not one of them. This thinking now aligns DeSantis with the stance of one of his strongest potential rivals, former President Trump. Of course, DeSantis has not actually announced he's running yet. But put that in context with what DeSantis said back in 2015. This was after Russia illegally annexed Crimea. DeSantis was then a congressman, and this is what he said at the time. We in the Congress have been urging the president, referring to President Obama, to provide arms to Ukraine. They want to fight their good fight. They're not asking us to fight it for them. And the president has steadfastly refused. I think that's a mistake.
And Governor Ron DeSantis, former President Trump's most frequent target from the campaign trail in Iowa. So CNN's Kristen Holmes live now in Davenport this morning with more on this. Kristen, good morning to you. How did Trump's first Iowa stop go? Full of jokes, I'm sure.
Good morning, Don. Well, this was really the first time we heard him go after DeSantis by name in a speech since he announced his candidacy for president. Usually he saves that for his social media page or for these one-on-one interviews. And I will say that while it was a very enthusiastic night, the response to those criticisms of the Florida governor was a little bit lukewarm. It was clear from people that we talked to that while they like Trump and maybe they like Trump better, they still like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. But one thing was very clear in the last 2 days we spent here. We talked to people. We saw the crowd last night. It was a packed house for Donald Trump. And of course, those CNN poll numbers, Donald Trump is still a huge force in the Republican Party. Former President Donald Trump taking aim at Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in Iowa.
Ron DeSantis. Did anyone ever hear of DeSantis? The sanctimonious DeSantis.
During his first trip to the crucial early state since announcing his third White House bid.
Ron was a disciple of Paul Ryan, who is a rhino loser who currently is destroying Fox and would constantly vote against entitlements.
At this early stage, DeSantis is widely seen as the former president's chief rival for the GOP nomination.
Ron DeSantis strongly opposed ethanol. Do you know that? And we don't even know if he's running, but I might as well tell you. If he's not running, I'll say he was fine on ethanol. Don't worry about it.
The Florida governor has yet to announce a presidential run. Earlier in the evening, Trump setting his sights on another potential 2024 hopeful, his former running mate, while seeking to deflect blame for the violent attack on the Capitol on January 6th, telling the Washington Post that Mike Pence was at least in part to blame for the events that day, saying, quote, had he sent the votes back to the legislatures, they wouldn't have had a problem with January 6th. So in many ways, you can blame him for January 6th. Trump's comments in response to the former vice president delivering his sharpest rebuke yet of his former boss. In a private speech during an annual dinner in Washington, Pence telling attendees, quote, I know that history will hold Donald Trump accountable for January 6th. Trump becoming the latest 2024 Republican hopeful to visit Iowa.
The agricultural industry should be treated just like the manufacturing industry.
We said we are going to go on offense. I'm going to find issues.
As the 2024 GOP field begins to take shape. A new CNN poll showing that the former president still remains a leading figure in the party. 40% of Republicans and Republican-leaning independents said they would most likely back Trump for the GOP nomination when given a list of 9 potential candidates, compared to the 36% who chose Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, the only two to reach double digits, with former Vice President Pence and former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley at 6% each. And Don, of course, it is important to note that this is still very early. Obviously, the former vice president, as well as the Florida governor, have not even announced that they are going to be running for president, even though, of course, that is anticipated. But this is expected to be a very crowded GOP field, and it's expected to be a very busy next year and a half. Don?
Right on that, Kristen. And here we are covering them. Thank you so much. I wonder if we should make, unless they declare should we not talk about them as if they are running? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
until you declare.
36% of people in that poll want it.
But we could do that. We could have done that, last year or the year before.
That kind of reminds me of what Trump said last night. He was saying that DeSantis is bad on ethanol.
Yeah.
He said, but unless he doesn't run
runs.
for president, if he doesn't run for president, I'll say he's good
He's
on ethanol.
good on ethanol.
Okay, anyway, Ested Herndon is here. We've got a fourth guest to the table.
Hi, Ested. And he is CNN political analyst and national politics reporter for the New York Times as well. Good morning to you.
Good morning. I also loved that Trump line on DeSantis, just showing how transactional his politics really is.
Yeah. So I said, what are you hot on?
I mean, I think that this presidential race is really turning up to another level. Over the weekend, we had that back and forth between former President Trump and Mike Pence, which is not new, those lines of attack. President Trump has been blaming Mike Pence wrongly for the attacks on January 6th for years. He was doing that on that day publicly. He's been doing it privately. But we've now seen Vice President Pence ramp up his kind of positioning as he gets closer to the presidential race. He took out a kind of pro-Ukraine position, which obviously cuts against some of the Republican electorate. And now at that Gridiron Dinner, a place in Washington, D.C., where there was going to be a lot of media folks there, he ramped up those attacks against Donald Trump and democracy. I think this is someone on Vice President Pence's side who may have been trying to pick that fight with Donald Trump, trying to draw him into the race in a way of growing his own lane, growing his own position as he heads into 2024. The race is definitely turning up.
It certainly is. And I think part of that with the Pence calculus of why he did that is now other Republicans are going to get asked about their view of January 6th and if Trump will be held accountable that day. Trump's response, I want to go back to that for a moment because I don't think we've focused on it enough here this morning, which is he is blaming Mike Pence, saying that the actions he did not take that day is why there was January 6th. That's what he told reporters on the plane to Iowa yesterday. That's the same argument that John Eastman, the attorney who was in and out of the Oval Office, made to Pence's counsel while Pence was still under siege at the Capitol that day as the riot was still underway, saying, this is your boss's fault because he didn't do what we wanted him to do. That's why we're seeing this level of violence.
Exactly. From that day all until now, despite all of the evidence that's come out, despite the facts, Donald Trump and those around him, the kind of hardened Trump base, has not changed their position here. They still blame Mike Pence for those actions and not sending the certification back to the state legislatures, something we know Pence did not have the authority to be able to pull off on that day. And so when I was just at CPAC, which is, again, a representation of the hardened kind of collective Trump base, this is still the line of attack on Pence. They are defending the rioters at January 6th. I actually saw folks in shirts that were really supporting those people, making sure they went up to people who talked on the stage, making sure they pulled Marjorie Taylor Greene over to the side, making sure that that issue stayed in the consciousness of some of those people. And I think that there was an interesting split screen at CPAC, actually, which speaks to this point. From the stage, you did not really hear election denial and January 6th come up that much. But among the people there, it is still a driving topic. And that's why you see Donald Trump still reflecting that language against Mike Pence.